Okay, I'm here with Kayor from Disney Interactive, and we're going to be talking about Split Second, the new racing game that's coming out when?
May 18th.
May 18th? All right, so this is a game that's kind of like, well, the other game, Blur, that's coming out, but this is kind of like a really intense Project Gotham racing, but like more arcade than simulation, yeah?
It's very much more arcade than simulation. I mean, over the last few years, we've seen arcade racing games come out every year. However, they're only a little bit different than the previous year's game. We think we have something here that's a lot more different than anything else that's come out. Finally giving the control to the drivers to be able to build your power and trigger environmental destruction elements that take other opponents out. So the goal of the game basically is drive as fast as you can, build as much power as you can, and then try to take people out.
Okay, so now the idea, there's destructible environments and you can create new routes. How is that carried out?
Well, the fiction of the game is that you're an elite race driver in a reality TV show, the name of which is Split Second. It's all fictional. But so the entire track that you're racing on is a movie set, it's a production set, and it's entirely rigged for destruction. So that's why there's booby traps set all over, and there's a crew that you can't see, but you're a contestant in this game, in this race. So you start racing all the way from in the entire season, from the premiere through the finale, try to get as many wins under your belt as you can, and try to be the season champion.
I got you. All right. So, how many different courses are there?
There's a bunch of different environments. Each of the different environments have different tracks within them. And just like you mentioned earlier, there's smaller power plays, there's larger power plays where you can change the tracks themselves. So every time you race a track, it's most likely going to be different than how it was when you raced it previously, based on the different behavior of yourself, of your opponents, the AI. Based on how much power you have at that point in time, you'll be able to trigger not just the standard power plays, but the super power plays, take down buildings, blast bridges, bring towers down, that create shortcuts, closing off previous routes, opening up new routes altogether. So the next time you come around, it still stays blown up, and you're racing on a different track altogether. So that just adds that much more level of variety even in one specific particular race.
All right, so let me just get this straight. Let's say that you're like in 4th place, right, and you're trying to catch up. And some guys go off on the right side, but you got a power play, so you activate it, I guess. Right. So then a building explodes and you go through the shortcut, all of a sudden you're in 1st place.
Possibly. Depends on how far back you are. Some of these super power plays are shortcuts. Some of them are just massive explosions. And in your example, it might be a big explosion that takes all 3 or all 4 of them out with no shortcut. Or it might be a shortcut closing off one route, opening up another one that allows you not only to catch up to the pack, but maybe get a lead. It's really helpful when you're not just in the middle, but at the back of the pack as well. Helps you catch up and stay within the pack where most of the action really is happening.
Just so I get a full picture of this, let's say it's a fairly large track that we're going around. Let's say it takes normally like 3 minutes to complete. If everyone activated everything, how much would that shorten the track down?
It's not shortening it down. It opens up new routes, alternate routes, and you can't base it on time, because I can't tell you how long it would take for you to finish the race, depending on how many power plays are being triggered. Some of the power plays are reusable, some of them are not. So depending on how much power you have at a particular point in time, you'll be able to trigger those power plays. You trigger route changer, sometimes you change a route, it might become longer, but it might take a longer way, but again bring you ahead of the pack in a way that's longer but faster, with less curvy, more straightaways, to kind of benefit, help you catch out of the pack.
Now you're saying that there's explosions that don't open up shortcuts, they're just big explosions. What does that do to your opponents?
Depending on the proximity of your opponents to these explosions, they can either make them swerve, because each of these explosions have shockwaves. The bigger ones have massive shockwaves. So depending on how close you or your opponents are to those shockwaves, they can get slammed against the wall. They can get slammed against one another. They can lose control of the car that they're driving and crash into some stationary object. Or they can lose control, not crash, but just spend enough time going left, right, getting back into control that allows you, that split second, to get ahead of them.
All right, so now this left-right mechanic, is that something that is kind of like, what I want to say is like Tony Hawk, where if you're grinding on a rail, you're kind of trying to balance it? Is there any type of little small game mechanic that you're trying to swerve to get back into place? Or is it just that there's nothing there and you're just really just trying to get back?
It's control. It's control of your throttle. It's control of your brake. And based on those is how you would start building up power in the first place. Drifting, drafting, jumping helps you build power. So those mechanics are second nature to you by the time you start playing the game. through the tutorial, through the earlier stages, and into the harder levels as well. So when these shockwaves happen to you, that's what you're doing, making use of those mechanics to maintain control of your car and at the speed that you would like.
I gotcha. Okay, all right. So, personally for me, I'm super excited about this game. There's another game, Blur came out. It's kind of more like actual combat, not so much terrain damage. But I'm looking forward to it. Is there anything else that stands out besides these power plays that you care to mention, or is this basically what we're focusing on?
The power plays is what sets us apart. That's the core of the game. We have a lot of different environments, a lot of different game modes that we haven't shown yet. We've talked about a couple at GDC. There's a survival game mode where you have semis hauling flaming barrels, tossing those back at you and trying to avoid them. Get points, and that's just one that we've announced so far. There's other gameplay modes that over the next maybe 2 to 4 weeks we'll announce. But again, the destruction, the speed, the aesthetics, that's what really sets us apart. And again, it's been developed by BlackRock Studio, who did Pure for us like a year and a half ago, which was the best racing game at E3 at that year, a new IP. So it's second as the best racing game at E3 this year. So, I mean, that hasn't happened back to back for any developer in any genre. So we're all thrilled about it, we're excited, we think we have something special. There's a bunch of games coming out, there's a bunch of different options out there. Again, it's just, how much better yours or the competition. And I think we have something special.
All right, again, when is Split Second coming out?
Coming out on May 18th on the 360, PS3, and PC. We will have more information about a demo and DLC that we will share over the next maybe 2 to 3 weeks.
All right, Kayer from Disney Interactive, thank you so much.
Thanks for the time, man.
Yep.